Before Europeans arrived, the land was home to millions of Native Americans. They lived in different tribes, each with its own culture, religion, and way of life, from the Navajo in the southwest to the Iroquois in the northeast. In 1492, Christopher Columbus reached the Americas. Soon, Spain, France, and England began colonizing. England established 13 colonies along the east coast of North America. The 13 colonies rebelled against British rule due to unfair taxes and lack of freedom. On July 4, 1776, they declared independence with the Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson. After years of war, America won its independence in 1783. In 1787, the U.S. Constitution was written, and George Washington became the first president. The nation expanded westward, buying land, like the Louisiana Purchase, 1803, and adding new states. A major conflict erupted between the North, Union, and the South, Confederacy, over slavery. President Abraham Lincoln led the Union and ended slavery with the Emancipation Proclamation. The North won, and slavery was abolished. The U.S. became a major industrial power. New railroads, factories, and inventions changed life rapidly. Millions of immigrants came from Europe and Asia seeking a better life. World War I, 1917–1918, the U.S. joined late but helped the Allies win. World War II, 1941–1945, after Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, the U.S. entered the war and helped defeat Nazi Germany and Japan. After World War II, the U.S. became a global superpower. The U.S. and the Soviet Union competed for global influence, capitalism versus communism. There were conflicts like the Korean War, Vietnam War, and the space race. In 1969, Neil Armstrong became the first man to walk on the moon. The Cold War ended with the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991. After the Cold War, the U.S. remained the world's strongest power. 2001, the 9/11 terrorist attacks changed national security policies. 2008, global financial crisis. 2009, Barack Obama became the first African American president. 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic affected millions. Today, the USA leads in technology, economy, and global politics. The 13 British colonies in America were tired of unfair taxes and no representation in the British Parliament. People started shouting, "No taxation without representation." Britain ignored their cries. And that's when anger turned into rebellion. 2008, global financial crisis. 2009, Barack Obama became the first African American president. 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic affected millions. Today, the USA leads in technology, economy, and global politics. In 1775, at Lexington and Concord, the first shots of the American Revolution were fired. Ordinary farmers, known as the Minutemen, stood up against the world's most powerful army. On July 4, 1776, leaders like Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and John Adams signed a bold document. Scroll the Declaration of Independence, announcing that the colonies were now a free nation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. This day became known as America's Independence Day, United States. The revolution wasn't easy. Battles raged across the land, from Boston to Yorktown. The Americans, led by George Washington, fought bravely with the help of France. Finally, in 1783, Britain surrendered. The United States of America was born. After the war, the new nation faced a big question: how should we govern ourselves? That question would lead to the U.S. Constitution. At first, the 13 states tried to rule themselves under a weak system called the Articles of Confederation. But it didn't work. There was no strong central power, no money, and no unity. The new nation was falling apart. So in 1787, leaders from every state gathered in Philadelphia. This meeting became known as the Constitutional Convention. Great minds like George Washington, James Madison, and Benjamin Franklin came together to design something powerful, a new constitution for the United States. They created a system based on checks and balances. No one would have too much power. The government would have 3 branches: Keycap 1 legislative, makes laws, Congress; Keycap 2 executive, enforces laws, President; Keycap 3 judicial, interprets laws, courts. This balance made the U.S. government strong and fair. In 1789, George Washington took the oath as the first president of the United States. The capital was New York City, and the people had hope in their hearts. A new journey of democracy had begun. Soon, the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, guaranteed people's freedom, speech, religion, and justice for all. A new nation stood tall, built on liberty and law. But challenges were waiting ahead. The United States was growing fast. But beneath the success, a dark conflict was rising, a war not between countries, but within the same nation. By the mid-1800s, America was split in 2 ideas. The North wanted freedom for everyone. The South wanted to keep slavery, which supported their farms and economy. The nation stood divided, North versus South. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln became president. He believed slavery was wrong. But Southern states feared his ideas, and soon, 11 states left the Union, forming their own country, right-finger the Confederate States of America. In 1861, war exploded at Fort Sumter. Brothers fought against brothers. The Civil War had begun, the bloodiest war in American history. Lincoln's mission was clear: to save the Union and free the slaves. In 1863, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring that all enslaved people in rebel states were free. Thousands joined the Union Army to fight for liberty. After 4 long years, the Union Army defeated the Confederacy in 1865. But victory came at a heavy cost, over 600,000 lives lost. Soon after the war, tragedy struck. President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, yet his dream of freedom lived on. After 1865, the period known as Reconstruction began. The North helped rebuild the South. New laws were made to protect the rights of freed African Americans, especially the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, which ended slavery and gave them citizenship and the right to vote. It was a time of hope and hard struggle. By the 1870s, America began to change fast. New inventions, railroads, and factories powered the nation forward. Steel, oil, and electricity built the new America. This was the birth of the Industrial Revolution in the United States. Names like Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, and Thomas Edison became legends. Light bulb gear. Millions of people from Europe and Asia came to America searching for a better life. They worked in factories, built railroads, and lived in crowded cities. It wasn't easy, but together, they helped build the foundation of modern America. While industries grew, workers suffered. Child labor, long hours, and low pay caused protests. Slowly, labor unions began to fight for justice. America was learning to balance freedom and fairness. By the early 1900s, America had transformed, from a war-torn land to one of the richest and most powerful nations in the world. But the world was about to change again, because a global storm was coming.